The cargo ship Horizon Trader moved slowly through the darkness of the outer rim. Captain Frank Miller sat in his chair on the bridge, eyes half closed after 18 hours awake. The ship was carrying mining equipment to the colonies in Sector 7, a routine job they had done many times before. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange on sensors," said Lisa Daniels, the communications officer. Her fingers moved across her screen as she tried to get a better reading. Frank straightened in his chair. "What kind of strange?" "A ship, I think. But it's flickering, like it's there 1 second and gone the next." The main screen showed only stars and empty space. The 4 alien Veloxian crew members, tall with blue-tinted skin, moved nervously at their stations. Their species had been working with humans for 50 years, valued for their natural skill with navigation. "Show me," Frank ordered. Lisa transferred the sensor data to the main screen. Sure enough, there was something there. A ship-sized object that appeared for a few seconds, then vanished, only to reappear in a slightly different position. The pattern repeated every 90 seconds. "Is it a sensor malfunction?" Frank asked. Chief Engineer Ray Garcia shook his head. "No, sir. Multiple systems are picking it up. Whatever it is, it's really out there." One of the Veloxians, Navigator Call, made a high-pitched sound of fear. The other 3 backed away from their stations, their eyes wide. "What's wrong with them?" Frank asked. Lisa had worked with Veloxians longer than anyone else on board. "Call. What is it? What do you see?" The alien's voice trembled. "It is the Phantom vessel, the ship that brings death." Frank frowned. "What are you talking about?" "There are stories," Lisa explained, "legends among several alien species about a ghost ship that appears and disappears. I thought it was just space tales." "It is real," Call insisted. "My grandmother's ship encountered it. Half the crew went mad from what they saw. It is a vessel out of time, not meant to exist." Frank wasn't one for ghost stories. "Let's get a better look. Move us closer, but maintain safe distance." The Veloxians refused to touch the controls. Ray had to take over navigation as they approached the strange phenomenon. As they got closer, the image on the screen became clearer during the brief moments. The ship was visible. It was definitely a vessel, but unlike any current design. It appeared damaged, with sections of its hull missing or warped, yet somehow it was still operational. Strange energy readings pulsed from what looked like an engine section. "Recording everything," Lisa said, her eyes fixed on the readings with fascination rather than fear. The mysterious ship suddenly appeared much closer than before, almost as if it had jumped position. Now they could see markings on its hull. Lisa zoomed in on them. That's impossible," she whispered. "What is it?" Frank leaned forward. "Those are human markings, old Earth Fleet script." She pointed to barely visible letters on the hull. "EFS, something. The rest is too damaged to read." Ray looked confused. "But humans haven't been in this sector before. The earliest expeditions never came out this far." The ghost ship flickered again and vanished. This time, it didn't reappear. "It's gone from all sensors," Lisa confirmed after several minutes. The Veloxians slowly returned to their stations, still nervous. Call kept looking at the empty space on the screen. "The Phantom vessel chooses when to be seen," he said quietly. "It exists between moments." Frank ordered a full report sent to Fleet Command, but he knew they would likely dismiss it as a sensor glitch or space phenomenon. Yet the image of that ship with human markings stayed in his mind. Later that night, Lisa sat in her quarters, reviewing the recordings. She zoomed in on different sections of the mysterious vessel, trying to make sense of what they had seen. She created a new private file and labeled it Ghost Ship Investigation. Something about the vessel called to her. If it truly was of human origin, how did it get so far from known space? And why did it appear and disappear like a phantom? Lisa didn't know it yet, but that brief encounter would change the course of her life forever. 5 years had passed since the encounter on the Horizon Trader. Lisa Daniels now walked through the quiet halls of the Galactic Historical Archives on Earth. She had left her position as a communications officer to pursue the mystery that had consumed her thoughts since that day. The archives building was massive, with ceilings that stretched upward for several floors. Data terminals lined the walls, and researchers from various species quietly worked at their stations. Lisa's footsteps echoed as she made her way to her small office. Her workspace was cluttered with old reports and star charts. Pictures of strange ship sightings covered one wall. She had gathered stories from across the galaxy, all describing the same thing: a vessel that appeared and disappeared, seeming damaged yet still functional. Lisa's supervisor, Dr. Alan Winters, stood in her doorway. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes, who had initially humored her research but grown more interested as evidence mounted. "Any new findings?" he asked. Lisa nodded and pulled up a holographic display. "I found reports from the Centauri Mining Guild dating back almost 200 years. They described the same ship we saw. That would place sightings around the time of humanity's first major expansion beyond our solar system," Ellen noted. "Exactly. And look at this." Lisa showed him another report. "The Draxian Empire has records of what they called a shifting vessel appearing in their space around the same time. They never had contact with the Centauri Guild or the Veloxians." Ellen leaned closer to examine the data. Different species with no communication between them, all describing the same phenomenon. "There's more." Lisa pulled up a classified file she had gained access to only the previous week. "I found records of an experimental ship called the *EF says Discovery*. It vanished during early interstellar tests." The file showed images of a sleek vessel, clearly of human design, but with unusual modifications around its engine section. "EF's Earth Fleet Ship," Alan read. "The markings match what you saw on the ghost ship." Lisa pointed to specifications in the file. The Discovery was equipped with something called fold space technology. It was supposed to be a new form of faster-than-light travel. "I've never heard of it," Alan said. "That's because the project was abandoned after the Discovery disappeared. The file says the technology was deemed too unstable, and all research was stopped." Lisa brought up a map of all the recorded sightings she had gathered over 5 years. When displayed together, they formed a pattern, not random appearances, but a vast, complex path across the galaxy. "I think the Discovery didn't just vanish," Lisa said quietly. "I think the fold space experiment went wrong. Instead of traveling through space normally, it's shifting somehow, moving in and out of our reality." Ellen studied the pattern of sightings. "If you're right, then the crew might still be alive, at least in some form." "That's why I need to find it," Lisa said. "Not just to solve a mystery, but because there might be people trapped on that ship for over 2 centuries. Helen looked concerned. "The archives won't fund an expedition based on historical records and ghost stories." Lisa smiled slightly. "I've already been in contact with people who would be interested. A private research vessel owner named Paul Bennett specializes in ancient human technology. He's agreed to help." "This could end your career if you're wrong," Alan warned. "And if I'm right, we could rescue the lost crew of humanity's most advanced experimental ship," Lisa countered, "plus discover what happened to fold space technology that might have changed everything." Alan sighed, knowing he couldn't talk her out of it. "When do you leave?" 2 weeks. Paul is gathering a small crew of specialists." Lisa looked at the star chart where the pattern of sightings seemed to converge. "We think we know where the Discovery might appear next." As Alan left her office, Lisa turned back to the old classified file. The face of Captain Eric Russell, commander of the Discovery, looked back at her from his personnel photo. A man lost in time, perhaps still alive after 2 centuries, trapped between moments on a ghost ship that haunted the galaxy. She was going to find him. The research vessel Nova Seeker drifted silently through the outer reaches of the Canis sector. It was smaller than a military ship, but larger than a personal craft, with special equipment for deep space research. Lisa stood on the bridge, watching the unfamiliar stars through the main viewport. "We're approaching the coordinates," said Paul Bennett, the ship's owner and chief engineer. He was a tall man with dark hair streaked with gray, an expert in old human technology. His family had made a fortune salvaging and restoring ancient ships. Lisa nodded. "According to the pattern, if the Discovery is going to appear anywhere, it should be in this region." The small crew of the Nova Seeker had been carefully selected by Lisa and Paul. Besides them, there was Kate Howard, a security specialist who had once served on a military vessel that encountered the ghost ship. She had short blonde hair and moved with the confidence of someone trained for dangerous situations. Joe Martinez completed the team. He was a xenobiologist who studied how different species were affected by unusual space phenomena. His specific interest was in fold space theory and its effects on living organisms. "I still think we're crazy," Kate said, checking the weapon systems. "Most people who get close to that thing don't come back normal." "Most people don't understand what they're seeing," Lisa replied. "We do." Paul looked up from his controls. "We're entering a region with unusual readings. The space around us is fluctuating somehow." Joe moved to his station, examining the data. "These are similar to theoretical fold space distortions. Space-time itself is becoming unstable here." The Nova Seeker slowed as they moved deeper into the anomalous region. The lights on the bridge flickered, and the engines made a strange humming sound. "Power fluctuations," Paul reported. "Something is affecting our systems." Lisa felt a strange sensation, like time was stretching and compressing around her. The others seemed to feel it too. Kate gripped her chair tightly, and Joe looked slightly ill. "There's something ahead," Paul said, his voice tight with tension. On the main screen, a shape began to form. At first, it was just a blur, a distortion in space. Then it solidified into the unmistakable form of a ship. It appeared damaged, with sections of hull warped or missing, but it was definitely the same vessel Lisa had seen 5 years ago. "The EF says Discovery *," she whispered. The ghost ship seemed to flicker in and out of existence, never fully solid. One moment it was clearly visible. The next it was just an outline, like a shadow against the stars. "It's phasing," Joe explained, staring at his readings. "Moving between normal space and something else. That's why it appears and disappears." Paul adjusted their course to bring them closer. The design is definitely early Earth fleet, but those modifications to the engine section aren't in any historical record. As they drew nearer, their own ship's systems began to act strangely. Displays showed impossible readings, and the artificial gravity fluctuated. "We can't get too close," Paul warned. "Whatever field surrounds that ship is disrupting our systems." Lisa moved to the communications station. "I'm going to try to contact them using old Earth Fleet emergency frequencies." She sent out a simple message. "Earth Fleet Ship Discovery. This is research vessel Nova Seeker. Do you read us?" For a long moment, there was nothing but static. Then a broken, distorted voice came through. "Hear you. Discovery. Time distortion. Captain Russell. Help. We're getting something." Lisa called out. The others gathered around her station. The voice faded in and out, barely understandable. "Trapped. Fold space. Different time. Careful." Suddenly, all the systems on the Nova Seeker went dark. The emergency lights came on, bathing the bridge in red. "Complete power failure," Paul said, working frantically at his console. "Whatever field surrounds that ship just knocked out everything." Through the viewport, they could see the Discovery was now much closer than before, almost as if it had jumped position. For a brief moment, they could see inside through a damaged section of hull. A human figure stood there, looking out at them. Despite the distance, Lisa could see the person was wearing an old Earth Fleet uniform, but changed somehow, altered in ways that didn't seem possible. Then the Discovery vanished completely, leaving only empty space where it had been. The lights and systems on the Nova Seeker came back online as suddenly as they had failed. "Did you see that?" Lisa asked, her voice shaking. "There was someone looking at us." Kate nodded slowly. "They're still alive in there." The crew of the Nova Seeker spent 3 days waiting for the Discovery to reappear. They worked in shifts, always keeping someone at the sensors. Lisa barely slept, convinced that the ghost ship could return at any moment. On the 4th day, Paul found Lisa in the ship's small mess hall, staring at a cup of cold coffee. "You need to rest," he said. Lisa shook her head. "We heard a voice. Someone is alive on that ship, even after all this time. And we'll find them," Paul assured her. "But you won't be any help if you're exhausted." Before Lisa could argue, Kate's voice came over the ship's comm system. "Everyone to the bridge. It's coming back." Lisa and Paul rushed to the bridge. On the main screen, the same distortion they had seen before was forming. The ghost ship appeared, flickering in and out of view like a bad transmission. "It's closer this time," Joe said from his station. "The fold space field is more stable. I think we can establish better contact." Lisa moved to the communications console. "I've been working on a way to match our signal to their phase pattern. If I time it right, we might get a clearer connection." She sent another message, adjusting the frequency as the ship phased in and out. "EVF says Discovery. This is Nova Seeker. Captain Russell, do you read us?" The response came faster this time, and clearer. "This is Captain Eric Russell of the Discovery." "Who? How are you contacting us?" Lisa's heart raced. "Captain, this is Lisa Daniels. We've been tracking your ship. Can you tell us what happened?" There was a pause, then Russell's voice returned. "The fold space drive. Malfunction. We're trapped between dimensions. Time moves differently for us." Paul moved to stand beside Lisa. "Captain, I'm Paul Bennett, engineer. How long has it been for you since the accident?" 7 years, came the reply, surprising them all. "But we've seen centuries pass outside. We appear in different times, different places." Joe looked up from his readings. "The temporal distortion is incredible. For them, it's only been 7 years, but for the rest of the galaxy, it's been over 200. Lisa leaned closer to the comm. "Captain, we want to help you. Is there any way to stabilize your ship?" "We've tried. HFY has been working on it since the accident." "HFY?" Kate asked. "The ship's AI," Lisa explained. "Advanced Research Intelligence Assistant. It would have been cutting edge 2 centuries ago." Russell's voice grew more urgent. "We're losing the phase sync. HFY is sending you our data. Maybe you can, where we failed." A stream of information began flowing into the Nova Seeker's computers. Complex equations, engineering diagrams, and ship logs downloaded rapidly. "The data transfer is stable," Paul said, looking amazed. "Whatever their AI is doing, it's working." Lisa tried to keep Russell talking. "Captain, what happened to your crew? How many of you are there?" 12 survived the initial accident, he replied, his voice starting to break up again. "We've all changed. The fold space energy altered us. We're not fully human anymore." On the screen, they could see the Discovery more clearly now. Through broken sections of the hull, they glimpsed figures moving inside. They looked human in shape, but there was something wrong about their movements, too fluid, as if they weren't fully solid. "We see glimpses of the universe as it passes," Russell continued, his voice fading. "Empires rise and fall in what feels like days to us. We've seen things you wouldn't believe." Suddenly, alarms began to sound on both ships. "The phase is destabilizing," Joe warned. "They're starting to shift out again." "Captain, we'll find a way to help you," Lisa called out. "We'll study the data and come back." Russell's final words came through broken and distorted. "Be careful. Others have tried. The energy is dangerous. We're both ghosts and real, existing between moments. The Discovery began to fade from view, its outline becoming transparent against the stars. Just before it vanished completely, a strange burst of energy shot from the ship to the asterisk Nova Seeker asterisk. All systems on their ship went dark for a moment, then returned to normal. When the lights came back on, the ghost ship was gone. "What was that energy burst?" Kate asked, checking for damage. Paul was already reviewing the data. "It looks like their AI sent us something extra. A complete copy of the ship's logs and something else." He looked up at Lisa with wide eyes. "I think it sent us part of itself." Back aboard the Nova Seeker, the crew gathered in the small research lab. Holographic displays showed the data from the Discovery, floating in the air around them. Paul had been working for hours to organize and understand what they had received. "It's incredible," he said, his face lit by the blue glow of the displays. The Fold space experiment was far more advanced than anything in the historical records. Lisa studied the images of the Discovery's crew. The photos from before the accident showed normal humans. The few images captured after the accident revealed something very different. Their bodies seemed to blur at the edges, as if they weren't fully solid. Their eyes glowed with strange energy. "What happened to them?" she asked quietly. Joe moved through the data, focusing on the medical records. The Fold space drive didn't just trap their ship. It exposed them to energies that should be impossible in our universe. It changed them at a molecular level. "Are they even alive?" Kate asked, looking uncomfortable. "Yes and no," Joe replied. "They're alive, but not in the way we understand life. They exist partially in our dimension and partially in Fold space." Paul brought up a simulation of the Discovery. According to these logs, the ship was designed to create a bubble of Fold space around itself, then move through it faster than light. But something went wrong during the first test. The simulation showed the ship disappearing into a strange distortion, then reappearing. Instead of traveling through Fold space, they became trapped between dimensions, Paul continued. They phase in and out of normal space unpredictably. For brief periods, they align with our reality enough to be seen. But why does time move differently for them? Lisa asked. Joe pointed to another set of data. In Fold space, time doesn't flow the same way. For the crew, only 7 years have passed, but they've witnessed over 2 centuries of galactic history in those 7 years. A new display appeared, seemingly on its own. It showed a message, "I am ARIA. Thank you for receiving my data." Everyone fell silent, staring at the floating text. "The AI," Lisa whispered. "It transferred part of itself to our systems." "I have limited functionality in your ship's computers," the text continued, "but I can help you understand what happened to the Discovery and its crew." Paul looked at their own ship's systems. "It's not hacking us. It's just using our displays to communicate." More text appeared. "Captain Russell and the crew have been trying to stabilize our phase oscillations for 7 years. We appear in normal space for increasingly longer periods, but we cannot remain." Lisa stepped closer to the display. "ARIA, can the crew survive outside the ship during these phase periods?" "No," came the response. "The crew members are now partially composed of Fold space energy. They cannot exist in normal space without the ship's containment field." Kate frowned. "So they're trapped forever?" "Not necessarily," ARIA replied. "I have been working on a solution. Using the data we have gathered across centuries of observations, I believe a stabilizer could be created." New diagrams appeared, showing complex physics that even Paul struggled to understand. "The stabilizer would need to be precisely calibrated to our phase frequency," ARIA explained. "It would require advanced materials and precise construction." Joe studied the diagrams. "If this works, it could revolutionize space travel. This is beyond anything our scientists have achieved." "But we're not doing this for science," Lisa said firmly. "We're doing it to save 12 people who have been trapped for over 2 centuries. Aria's text appeared again. "There is something else you should know. In our journeys through Fold space, We have observed things no human was meant to see. The crew has knowledge that could be dangerous. What kind of knowledge? Kate asked. We have witnessed the rise and fall of thousands of civilizations. We have seen patterns in history that reveal truths about the nature of intelligent life. And we have detected entities that exist in fold space, watching our universe. The displays suddenly flickered, and alarm bells rang throughout the ship. Multiple vessels approaching, Paul announced, checking the sensors. They're military ships from 3 different species. How did they find us? Lisa asked. Kate moved to the weapons controls. Someone must have tracked our communications with the Discovery. A new message from HFY appeared. The Discovery has been observed by many species over centuries. Some worship it as a divine entity. Others fear it as a demon. Most want to destroy it. And now, they want to destroy you too. The Nova Seeker raced through space, pushed to its limits as it fled from the alien vessels. Kate's hands moved quickly over the controls, using every trick she knew to stay ahead of their pursuers. We have 7 ships behind us, she reported. 3 Draxian warships, 2 Veloxian cruisers, and 2 vessels of unknown origin. They're all after the Discovery's secrets, Lisa said, looking at the data HFY had provided. Some want to destroy it, others want to use it. Paul worked frantically at his station. I think I understand enough of HFY's stabilizer design to build a prototype. But we'd need special materials, and we'd need time. We don't have either, Kate said grimly. Those ships will catch us within hours. Lisa turned to the holographic display where HFY's information floated. HFY, when will the Discovery phase back into our space? Text appeared. Based on our increasingly stable pattern, the Discovery will appear in the Corvus sector in approximately 43 hours. That's too long, Kate said. We'll be captured before then. Joe, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. What if we don't run? What if we talk to them? Everyone turned to look at him. The alien species have been seeing the Discovery for centuries, Joe continued. Yes, some fear it, but others worship it. What if we explain what it really is? Lisa shook her head. They won't believe us. They've built religions and fears around this ship for generations. Not all of them, Joe insisted. The Galactic Science Council has representatives from 15 species. They're rational. They might listen. Paul looked thoughtful. We could appeal to the council while working on the stabilizer. More text appeared from HFY. The crew of the Discovery agrees. Captain Russell says that hiding has never solved anything. Lisa made her decision. Kate, change course for Centauri Station. That's where the Science Council headquarters is located. Kate nodded and adjusted their path. The pursuing ships continued to follow but didn't fire. Over the next 2 days, the crew worked tirelessly. Paul and Joe used HFY's designs to create a prototype stabilizer. Lisa prepared their case for the Science Council. Kate maintained contact with the alien vessels, keeping them at a distance but not fleeing. Finally, they'd reached Centauri Station, a massive structure that housed the Galactic Science Council. Representatives from 15 species had gathered to hear their explanation about the ghost ship. Lisa stood before them, nervous but determined. For centuries, your people have seen what you called the Phantom Vessel. Some feared it, some worshipped it. Today, we will tell you what it really is. She explained about the *EF's Discovery*, the fold space experiment, and the crew trapped between dimensions. The alien representatives listened with varying degrees of belief and skepticism. This is merely a human trick, said the Draxian representative, his scaled face showing distrust. They seek to claim the divine vessel as their own creation. The Phantom brings only death, argued the Veloxian, her blue skin pale with fear. It must be destroyed before it fully enters our reality. A heated debate broke out among the council members. Some believed Lisa. Others called for the destruction of both the Nova Seeker and the Discovery if it appeared again. As the arguments grew louder, all lights on the station suddenly flickered. A strange energy reading appeared on all sensors. "It's happening," Paul said quietly to Lisa. "The Discovery is phasing in, right on schedule." Outside the station's massive windows, the ghost ship appeared, larger and clearer than they had ever seen it before. Its damaged hull glowed with strange energies as it phased into normal space just outside the station. The council chamber fell silent as everyone stared at the vessel. "Now's our chance," Paul said, holding up the stabilizer device they had built. "This might help anchor them to our reality, but someone needs to attach it directly to their hull during this phased period." "I'll do it," Lisa said. Paul shook his head. "It has to be me. I built it. I understand how it works." He looked at the others. "If this goes wrong, the Fold space energies could do to me what they did to the Discovery's crew." Before anyone could argue, Paul grabbed the device and headed for the airlock. Lisa followed him. "Paul, wait," she called. "There has to be another way." He turned to her, his expression calm but determined. 200 years, Lisa. They've been trapped for 200 years. I can handle a little risk to end that." Paul floated through space in his pressure suit, the stabilizer device clutched tightly in his gloved hands. Behind him, the Centauri station glowed with artificial light. Ahead, the *ES Discovery * flickered in and out of reality, never fully solid. From the station, Lisa watched through the viewport, her heart pounding. Kate and Joe stood beside her, along with the members of the Science Council. No one spoke. They all knew how dangerous this mission was. "Paul, can you hear me?" Lisa asked through the communication system. "Loud and clear," Paul replied, his voice slightly distorted. "I'm approaching the Discovery now. It's like nothing I've ever seen up close." As Paul got nearer to the ghost ship, strange lights played across his suit. The Discovery's hull seemed to ripple, parts of it becoming transparent before solidifying again. "The energy readings are off the charts," Joe said, looking at the sensor data. "The Fold space field is getting stronger." Paul reached the hull of the Discovery and attached a safety line to a piece of damaged plating. "I'm securing myself to the ship. The phase shifts are making it hard to stay in place." Inside the ship, figures moved behind viewports. They had human shapes but seemed to flow like water, their edges blurred. One pressed a hand against a window, watching Paul. "They can see me," Paul said, his voice filled with wonder. "They know what I'm trying to do." He began working to attach the stabilizer to a specific point on the hull, following the plans ARIA had provided. His movements were careful and precise despite the difficult conditions. "Paul, the ship is starting to phase out again," Lisa warned, watching the readings. "You need to hurry." "Almost there," Paul grunted. "Just a few more connections." Suddenly, a section of the hull where Paul was working became transparent. He fell partway through before catching himself on his safety line. His arm had passed through the solid matter of the ship. "Paul," Lisa shouted. "I'm okay," he responded, though his voice sounded strange. "But my arm, it feels weird. Like it's not fully there." Paul pulled himself back and continued working, even as parts of the Discovery faded in and out around him. Finally, he connected the last component of the stabilizer. "It's done," he said. "Activating now." He pressed a sequence of buttons on the device. It began to glow with blue energy that spread across the hull of the ghost ship. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then slowly, the Discovery stopped flickering. Its outline became more solid, more real. "It's working," Joe exclaimed, watching the sensor readings. "The phase oscillations are stabilizing." On the ship, Paul pushed away from the hull, intending to return to the station. But as he moved, his safety line caught on a piece of damaged plating. He struggled to free himself. "Paul, what's happening?" Lisa asked, seeing his difficulty. "I'm stuck," he replied. "And the Fold space energy, it's affecting my suit." Lisa turned to Kate. "We need to get him out of there." Kate nodded and rushed toward the airlock to prepare a rescue. But before she could leave, they all saw Paul's suit begin to glow with the same strange energy that surrounded the Discovery. His movements became jerky, then fluid in an unnatural way. "Lisa," Paul's voice came through the comm, now heavily distorted. "Something's happening to me. The fold space energy, it's changing me." The Discovery had now fully stabilized in normal space. A hatch on its side opened, and two figures emerged. They moved like humans but flowed like liquid, their bodies partially transparent. They reached Paul and freed him from the tangled line. "Who are they?" one of the council members asked. "The crew of the Discovery," Lisa said quietly. The strange figures guided Paul toward the open hatch. He didn't resist. "Paul, they're taking you inside the ship," Lisa called out. "What are you doing?" There was a long pause before Paul responded. When he did, his voice was calm despite the distortion. "I can't come back, Lisa. The fold space energy has already changed me too much. My molecular structure is destabilizing in normal space." "No," Lisa whispered. "It's okay," Paul said. "They're helping me. They know what's happening because they went through it too." He paused. "Tell the others I chose this. The Discovery needs an engineer who understands modern technology." Paul and the two crew members disappeared into the ship. The hatch closed behind them. On the station, silence fell over everyone watching. The Discovery remained visible, no longer flickering in and out of existence. "His sacrifice stabilized the ship," Joe said finally. "They can exist in our reality now." Lisa wiped tears from her eyes. But at what cost? 6 months passed since the Discovery had been stabilized in normal space. The once feared ghost ship now orbited a specially built station near Centauri. The station, named Fold Haven, had been designed to generate a controlled fold space field that helped the Discovery and its crew remain stable. Lisa stood in the observation deck, looking out at the ship that had changed her life. Behind her, representatives from 12 species worked in the large chamber, studying data from the Discovery. What had begun in fear had transformed into the galaxy's most important research project. "Still watching the ship?" Joe asked, joining her at the viewport. He had stayed on as the lead xenobiologist, studying the effects of fold space on living organisms. Lisa nodded. "Every day. I keep thinking about Paul. He made his choice," Joe said gently. "And from his messages, he seems happy with it." Communication with the Discovery was limited but possible. Paul sent regular updates on his condition and work. The fold space energy had changed him, making him more like the original crew. He could no longer exist in normal space without special protection, but he had found a new purpose helping the Discovery's crew adapt to the modern galaxy. Kate entered the observation deck, now wearing the uniform of station security chief. "The Veloxian delegation is here. They want to speak with Captain Russell again." The aliens who had once feared the ghost ship now sought its wisdom. The Discovery's crew had witnessed centuries of history in what felt like moments to them. They had seen empires rise and fall, watched the evolution of countless species, and observed patterns in history that no one else could perceive. "I'll take them to the communication chamber," Lisa said. As the liaison between the Discovery and the rest of the galaxy, she had become essential to the project. Her decision to pursue the mystery of the ghost ship had led to one of the greatest discoveries in human history. In the special chamber designed for communication with the Discovery's crew, Captain Eric Russell's image appeared on a large screen. He still looked human, but his form flowed and shifted like water, glowing with fold space energy. The Veloxian representatives bowed respectfully before him. "Captain Russell," Lisa said, "the Veloxian delegation has questions about the ancient artifacts they discovered on their homeworld." Russell smiled, his expression fluid yet recognizable. "We passed through their system during the golden age of their third dynasty. We observed the construction of those temples." The Veloxians listened in awe as Russell described events from their ancient history that had been lost to time. The Discovery had become a living record of the galaxy's past. Later, when the meeting was done, Lisa returned to her quarters. A message waited for her, marked from Paul. She opened it eagerly. Lisa, Paul's recorded image said, his form now as fluid as the original crew's. We've made a breakthrough. Captain Russell and I have been working with ARIA to modify the fold space drive. We believe we can control our phasing now to appear exactly when and where we choose. Lisa leaned forward, intrigued. But that's not all, Paul continued. The entities we've detected in fold space have made contact. They're not hostile, just different. They exist on a level we can barely comprehend. But now that we're part of both realities, we can communicate with them. Paul's expression grew serious. They've shown us something important. There's a reason fold space technology was abandoned 2 centuries ago. The entities warned that continued use would have torn a permanent rift between dimensions. But they've also shown us safer alternatives. His image smiled. We're sending the designs through ARIA. It's not faster than light travel as we imagined it, but it's something better. The entities call it harmonic resonance. It will change everything, Lisa. The message ended, leaving Lisa staring at the blank screen. From feared ghost ship to the salvation of interstellar travel, the Discovery had completed a journey none could have imagined. Outside her window, the Discovery glowed with gentle blue energy. No longer a phantom to be feared, it had become a bridge between worlds, dimensions, and species. Its human crew, changed but still explorers at heart, continued their mission in ways they could never have foreseen. Lisa placed her hand against the glass, looking at the ship that had haunted the galaxy. Safe travels, she whispered, knowing that the Discovery's greatest journeys were still to come.